Hello. Today's video is going to be one of my usual offshoots from the normal. I have TradingView loaded, and I have an alpha version of Jackrabbit that I am working on building. Now, I'm using the 1-second chart on TradingView because there's been a lot of questions about TradingView's repainting or Jackrabbit's retracement problem. And I'm going to literally demonstrate this here on a 1-second chart. And you will see as I'm talking the candlesticks forming, and you will literally see signals show up and disappear according to the technical analysis that I have loaded right now. And I'm going to discuss part of that technical analysis because this is a future version of Jackrabbit you are looking at. It's still currently in development, and I'm debating whether or not I want to do an open alpha on it. That still depends on how things progress as I move through the development process. But for now, I'm going to bring up the settings and show some of the major differences already to what I've already made changes to. Now, right now, I am using only technical analysis. As you can see, a very aggressive setup to create what you're seeing on the screen now at 1-second intervals, my testing stage. Now, let's get past this part and get down into the actual indicators. You'll notice right here that I'm moving towards a depth-based system that gives more granular control over the actual signals. That is important, as you'll see in the future what that means, and I will actually explain that with a chart very shortly because of how I am getting ready to take Jackrabbit to the next level. Right now, everything is Fibonacci based. So let's do some turn-ons here. You'll see the signals come and go, and that's what we want. We want to see those signals show up and disappear. That is repainting by TradingView's standards. Now, TradingView has some restrictions that are going to be problematic as Jackrabbit continues to evolve and develop. Literally, physical platform limitations. Part of what I am doing with this advancement and development stage is moving forward, predicting those platform limitations. So some indicators, such as the trend hunter, Ichimoku cloud or the predicator, and the PSAR are going to be folded into technical analysis. That is, they are going to become part of the technical analysis system, which means they will become capable of using different timelines and different candlestick sizes. All of the things that technical analysis now supports, the Ichimoku cloud, the trend hunter, or I should say the predicator, the trend hunter, and the PSAR will be capable of. So as this development progresses and becomes more in-depth, it also brings me to another problem I've been running into, which is the interconnectivity is wreaking havoc with the visual scripts. So there will be much more emphasis and development within the strategy to demonstrate the interconnectivity, as by necessity some visual scripts will be discontinued. And that is a major setback in one way, but in another way, it becomes a limitation keeping them just because there's no way of really keeping up with this level of analysis. So now that you see the Fibonacci range, this is all Fibonacci based for this system. We're going to go to where I explain it better. You're used to seeing short, medium, heavy, and aggressive, or heavy and long. Now for RSI and other signals, medium or normal. For the Fibonacci table, these are the candlesticks that get analyzed, starting at 5, going down appropriately to these levels. For example, Fibonacci short is 21 candlesticks. So the moving average at a short level, or risk mitigation at a short level, analyzes 21 candlesticks. At a medium level, it analyzes 144 candlesticks. At a heavy level, it analyzes 987 candlesticks. That's all fine and well, but it misses all of these numbers in the middle. And that's what this next update is all about, is opening up all of these possible combinations, all the way up to the maximum that TradingView supports. Now that being said, you notice I've got squares, logarithmic, and cubed boundaries. All of these possibilities will soon be available with the advanced technical analysis. So if you don't want to use Fibonacci as a means of evaluating your boundaries, you can use the squares, in which case a short squared combination, instead of 21 candlesticks, takes place at 64 candlesticks. So basically, you'll be doing 25 candlesticks, 36 candlesticks, 49 candlesticks, and 64, where all 4 combinations have to line up before a signal is issued. The same is true for cubed. You start out at 125 candlesticks, and you go to 512 candlesticks for the combination of a short analysis, except you will actually be able to use the intermediate levels with the future update. So that being said, you can see here, now you won't be able to go above 5,000 candlesticks. So for cube, this will be the last boundary. Everything else will be ignored. For logarithmic, this will be the last boundary. All of this will be ignored. Of course, squared, you can go all the way up to a depth of 20, and you'll be able to go through all of these candlestick analysis. So as Jackrabbit progresses, and these become more available, the technical analysis will be capable of each of these layers, not just Fibonacci. So that is why the biggest imprint of what is going to be happening here it will no longer read Fibonacci moving averages. It'll just say moving averages, and the next step will be to actually define the type of moving average you want, which would be a Fibonacci, logarithmic, squared, or cubed. This also opens the doorway to adding other kinds of systemic patterns as Jackrabbit develops. But it doesn't incur increased security calls or layered calls from TradingView, which has a very distinctive hard boundary too. So while in one way it becomes more complex because you have more options, in another way it gives you greater control over your combinations, with emphasis going towards the strategy versus the visual indicators, the visual scripts themselves. You will literally be able to fine tune your strategy to the point that you will get real-time information off of the strategy to produce a real-time indicator. Now, it's been asked several times that I include trailing stop loss, take profit, and so forth within the strategy. The reason I don't is because I want the strategy to be a direct mirror of the indicator. And TradingView simply does not allow strategies to send alerts. If TradingView ever does allow strategies to issue alerts, there will be a complete systemic rebuild of that whole system, and they will be added, along with a whole new level of opportunities simply not possible right now. So as you can see, you're watching, you can see signals show up and disappear quite rapidly, like the one right here. Those are all retracements, or repainting as TradingView calls them. Now, when a signal shows up, there is a very high probability it will give you an alert in your alert log. Even though it disappears, it will still fire off the alert. TradingView has settings that let real-time accurate data. Every time this bar moves, it's called a tick. Jackrabbit reevaluates whatever you have here every single tick. That's actually faster than what the strategy itself can keep up with. So for every single tick, it gets completely reevaluated. And that is what causes repainting. Because if it sees a signal, but then the bar drops or changes, that signal will go away. I've thought about making Jackrabbit use more historical data and less real-time data, but I personally have a problem with that, as I want the most recent data possible. It doesn't do you any good to base your finances on old information, even though you are at risk for retracement. There are ways you can get around retracement. For example, using confirmation bias. Let's see, let's come up here. Let's go to confirmation bias. Yes. And let's go to turning this off. And we'll use confirmation bias of the 15-minute chart. So a signal has to take place on the 15-minute chart and on the 1-second chart. So that's a way that you can control your retracement. And here's an example of a signal that shows up on both charts. Now notice all of these signals disappeared. Now we can of course go down to just 1 minute. We'll let it refresh. So the signals that occur on the 1 second and on the 1 minute. Again, notice all the signals disappeared. You're not getting those false signals. So there's ways of dealing with it where you don't get the retracement. Is it as accurate as what you had previously for real-time data? Yes and no. It's still real-time data, but it's using two different time frames to make decisions. So that is something to be aware of when you're working. I personally prefer real-time data as I believe it is the best way to manage my own personal investments. But I am also very well aware of the risks that this can cause. And that is something that you need to really think about when you are evaluating your process. So let's just sit here and run for a few seconds. And watch how fast the signals change and retrace. Remember, every time a signal shows up, if you have an alert registered, it's going to send an alert. That is important to remember. Your alerts will run that fast. Tick precision can be very dangerous if you don't understand how all of this interconnects. So take your time and watch how things work and move before you actually set up your alerts. So, as always, feedback helps me in my development process. So let me know what you think about where Jackrabbit is going in terms of moving away from just a light, medium, heavy level to actually being able to pick your own depth. Based upon feedback is how I will decide whether or not I want to use an open alpha approach versus just making this mainline. The algorithms themselves aren't changing, but this definitely gives you a lot more control over each element. Until next time.